Well, that song and that music can mean only one thing. It's Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. And you, it's your show right here on EWTN Radio. Happy Blessed Monday, the Feast of the Queenship of the Blessed Virgin Mary. Beautiful feast day today. And we have a topic that we think you will really want to share and resonate with. So we'll introduce that to you in just a moment. I'm Jerry Usher with Debbie Georgiani.
Hello, Jerry. How's your Monday going so far?
So far, great. Yeah, I just got back from Mass, so it couldn't get off to a better start.
Better start. Yeah, that's amazing. That's good deal. Now, Jerry, you put this on the show calendar. Tell us what was behind the thought of this and the topic and what you want our listeners to weigh in on today.
Well, I was just thinking about in my own life, and this is not to brag, but I have had, I would call them friends, people I met on the street. They were homeless. One young man actually had one or both of his legs amputated, and I would take food to him and different things, soap and things that he might have needed. He was like he said, he was homeless. He finally got a motorized wheelchair, but throughout my life, I've had instances like that, and I think we all do, and we're drawn to want to really reach out and be Christ-like to the weak, the vulnerable, the less fortunate than ourselves. And so I'm thinking today, if anyone is listening, if you do any kind of street ministry with the homeless, maybe you do a prison type of ministry, any kind of volunteer or even paid ministry that works with those who are weak and vulnerable and really need the help of the rest of us. So if you would like to join that conversation, it's your show, 833-288-3986.
So the question is, what attracts us to the weak and vulnerable? We want to hear from you. Tell us your story. If you encountered somebody that was less fortunate and you began a friendship with them and you wanted to help them, was it a win-win for both of you? Did you benefit from it? Did you grow spiritually? Did that person benefit from it? Was it a good encounter? Was it a wonderful experience? Or maybe you were attracted to the weak and vulnerable and it didn't work out the way you had expected. And we want to hear about that as well. Why? Because Take Two is all about taking a fresh look at ourselves, the world around us. We cover the good, the bad, the ugly, and everything in between. Now, why do we do that? So we can get a real raw look at what's going on in people's lives and how they interact in the world and how they are Christ in the world and what happens with the spiritual growth. So if you can answer the question, what attracts us to the weak and vulnerable, and share a little bit of your story and your experience, we want to hear from you. It is Monday. We're still in the middle of summer here, and but we need you to put everything aside for a few minutes and call this number because Matt Gabinski is waiting. 833-288-3986. That's the number. It would be great if I could memorize a number. 833-288-3986. We're starting pledge drives again, and so you have the pledge drive numbers as well for various stations, so it's very hard for me to keep all these numbers straight.
Right. I know how that goes. I definitely do. All right, Take Two family, it's a Monday. It's the start of a brand new week. We want to get off to a really great start. The phones are ringing right now, and we still have a couple phone lines that are open. So please let us know. Maybe it's somebody at work, who looks, they're in over their heads, or maybe they have a tough job or a tough boss or something, and you've just said, hey, I'm here if you ever need to talk about anything, or maybe invited them to church or taken them out to lunch or something. It could be a family member who is in need of some kind of particular love and affection and attention, maybe assisting a parent late in life. And I was telling Debbie before the show, I think this could even apply to our animals, our pets. We're doing a show on Have You Rescued a Pet tomorrow, but this could even work into today's topic because you know what? I look at my little good boy Duke, and he was abused at some point in his life. And I think, Debbie, we all have a heart for the dogs and the cats and the other pets and animals that have not been treated well, and we want to turn that around, change that for them, and give them a better life. So lots of directions, folks, this can go. It's up to you. 833-288-3986.
Okay, I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer on a Monday, but we got to cover this from all angles, right? Now, you just mentioned like a rescue pet or something, or going to find some pet that needs help, or even, I know stories of people that have done that, Jerry. They have brought in a strange animal into their home, and it was a disaster. It was not a good experience. The pet didn't work out with the kids, and it was a mess. And I even know from international adoption stories. I have a friend who wanted to adopt internationally, and it really turned out to be a real a troubled adoption because she didn't have the right information when she adopted this child. And so we are attracted to the weak and vulnerable, and sometimes it really works out in a beautiful way, and sometimes it can be a real cross. It can be a real struggle that we have to deal with. So that's an interesting thing. And then I was just thinking about a situation Marty and I had about 10 years ago. We helped somebody out who was just down on their luck, and we helped them, and they ended up taking advantage of us business-wise. So what do you do in that situation? Does it make you not want to approach it again, right? Or do you go, well, I got to trust again. I got to be Christ again. It's an interesting situation that happens.
That's right. Well, we got some on the line right now. Matt Gubensky is screening calls. Ace McKay is our producer. Jeff Burson is on social media. Remember, if you're watching the video stream on YouTube or Facebook, you can post your comments there. You can email take2@ewtn.com. And most of all, we'd love to hear your beautiful voice at 833-288-3986. And the question again is, what is it that draws us to those who are, in need in some way? And I'm thinking it could be, we have a couple of people in my parish, Debbie, who are blind, and the people just really flock to them and want to help them. They give them rides to mass, and both of them sing in the choir, which I think is beautiful. Mm-hmm. But see, we have people who really want to help them, give them rides and so forth, because they are obviously have a need there, and without people helping them with that, it would be difficult for them to carry on their daily lives. So
right. And that's a beautiful thing when you see people rush to want to be of service to others. But then there's also, let me do the flip side of that. There's also sometimes where we overlook these folks, and we don't want to engage, because when we engage, we think, oh, that's going to be too much is expected from me, right? And so I'm not going to engage at all. And that's very unfortunate, because I believe that's a missed opportunity for the Holy Spirit to work. So what attracts us to the weak and vulnerable? Let's talk about it. Let's talk how we show up as Christ to others. If we've got burned before, do we come back again and show up as Christ again? We want to talk about it on Take Two today. Please call us at 833-288-3986. We expect your call. We're waiting for you.
Father Mitch Pacwa, Jeanette DeMello, Al Cresta.
The leading Catholic voices are on the largest Catholic media network in the world. You're listening to the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.
Hi, I'm Janet Williams, and I want to invite you to join me at the EWTN Family Celebration in Phoenix. I'm looking forward to seeing you.
Make your plans now to attend the EWTN Family Celebration October 1st at the Phoenix Convention Center in Phoenix, Arizona. Find out how you can be a part at EWTN.com/family celebration.
EWTN, helping people grow in their love and understanding of God.
Before I took a nap earlier today, I woke up listening to your show, and that's what encouraged me to call. It's incredible for me to also get to talk to you guys, and I really love what y'all do. About a year and a half back, I was in depression, and listening to your show pulled me out. I promise you guys, y'all pulled me out. It's a beautiful thing. The Lord is for real. I really love this show and love the Lord and love this moment.
Do you Roku? Roku is a small black box that allows you to instantly stream EWTN to your TV. All you need is a high-speed internet connection, a TV, and the Roku player. For more, visit EWTN.com/Roku.
Great to be with you here on EWTN Radio at Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. After a couple days over the weekend to get our batteries replenished, we are back with you and off and running on this Monday broadcast, talking about Are you one of those who is drawn to? You have a heart. You have a heart for those who are a little less fortunate, maybe need a little extra help throughout their day, throughout the course of their lives. Why are we attracted to the weak and the vulnerable? 833-288-3986. And we will go to your calls after I tell you about how you can join a deeper conversation about the most consequential issues facing Catholics today. That's on EWTN News in Depth with Monse Alvarado. And you can get EWTN News in Depth delivered to your email inbox with details of each week's show. Just go to EWTN.com/in-depth and sign up today.
Generally, I believe that we want to help others. We don't want to see people hurt or down or struggling, right? We really want to jump into action and really assist others. And so I think it's a natural, just an innate kind of feeling of us wanting to be there and to not rescue, but to really assist. And that's an important thing. Now, I think if we are there to rescue, we have to ask ourselves, why do we feel that need? Why is that something that could be detrimental for all parties concerned? So there's all these psychological aspects to it of helping those that are less fortunate. We really want to hear from you. Maybe you're in that ministry work. Maybe you run a food pantry, or you work at a food pantry, or you do something of that nature where you're out in the community and you interact with these fine souls every day. What are you hearing? What are they saying to you? Are they happy about the assistance? Do they not want it? Do they feel like they're less than? That's not a good feeling. So let's talk about it. 833-288-3986. Should we go to Joe in San Antonio?
Let's do that. Let's get started.
Okay. On Guadalupe Radio Network, Joe, you are first up here on Take Two.
Well, I'm here in San Antonio, and I belong to St. Mark's the Evangelist Church. And during COVID, we just sat in our house mostly. And so after I wanted to get more involved, and I have plenty to do at my own house, but it seems like I never get anything done. So I figured that I could help other people, and that I feel better about getting some of the work that I need to do on my own house. And I'm retired, and I belong to the Knights of Columbus. And there's many men that do so much in several different ministries that I got involved with. And some go down to the prisons, and I'm involved with traveling loaves and fishes, and I do some work every week with them. And I also have some talents in past careers doing plumbing and air conditioning. I've been helping with some members or some widows that don't have the means to get their air conditioning fixed, or they can't get somebody in a timely manner to come out. And those are the kind of things I've been doing.
Beautiful. Joe, thanks for sharing all of that with us, and thanks for all that you do. And, you're making a good point, I think, implicit point, and that is there are opportunities all around us to help those who are, as we say, weak and vulnerable. We could use a lot of interchangeable words there, down and out or less fortunate and so forth. And as you were talking, I thought to myself, this man is a Knight of Columbus. I could hear that in your voice, and then you mentioned that. And as a brother Knight, thank you for being a Knight, Joe. And, one of the things, another example of what the Knights do is sell, actually hand out Tootsie Rolls outside grocery stores and maybe get a little bit of a donation for those who are less fortunate. So bless you, Joe, and we hope that you will get all the things you need to get done at your own home as well as you're helping all these other people out. Debbie?
Yeah, you're a good soul, Joe. It's so obvious, and thank you so much for being there for others, because I think that's very important. We need more Joes in the world.
I do it as gratitude for all the blessings that God has given me.
Yeah,
Sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. We should all be like that. Joe, thank you so much, and thank you for being a Knight of Columbus. We love the Knights. Jerry, it's interesting. I think our Take Two family knows that I live in the desert in Arizona. And, when I first moved out to Arizona when I was 18, I came from New Jersey, and I was so surprised at the reaction of Arizonans here in the Valley, because when I first moved here about 6 months, I had we were in the middle of a monsoon storm. It was raining just unbelievably, and wind and everything, and my car broke down. And I was broken down on a pretty busy street of 3 lanes on each side. Okay, it was a pretty busy street, and literally within seconds, there was about 40 people around my car. They had stopped their cars, and they came running, and they're knocking on my window going, "Do you need help? Do you need help?" And I said, "Is this what it's like here in Arizona?" I couldn't believe it, because ever since 37 years I've been in Arizona, Jerry, the same thing. People rush to help one another. And here's the reason I think it happens. We live in the desert. It's kind of hard to live out here. We have high temperatures. Everybody knows that there's going to be breakdowns of cars and stuff like that, and people on the side of the road. And with no air conditioning, you can dehydrate and die pretty quickly. And I really believe that people know that when you're struggling all together, kind of living somewhere, you tend to have that disposition of wanting to help others because you don't want to see anybody be hurt or suffer. What do you think of that theory?
Oh, it makes total sense to me. Yeah, I mean, you're all kind of dealing with the same challenges, and that's probably, everywhere too. I mean, I'm thinking now of colder climates, like during the winter, you definitely have people reaching out to anybody who's in need, and that's what we're talking about today on the program. Take Two Family, 833-288-3986. Are you quick to jump in and help somebody when they need a hand, or maybe due to a lot of different circumstances, things have changed, in our world and our society. So maybe you're a little hesitant. Maybe you pull back. Share a story of how you've, helped somebody who was weak and vulnerable and less fortunate at 833-288-3986. Next, we're going to Aisha, who is in Tennessee, listening on Sirius XM 130. Hello, Aisha. Welcome.
Hi.
Thanks for calling in.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that I remember when there was a time that I was the one who needed help. And I was medically discharged from the military because I was injured. And at the same time, my husband at the time left me with 3 children. And so while I was waiting for my benefits to come in and everything like that, I needed help. And that was the hardest thing for me because I was always the one that liked to be on top of things. And so when I needed help, eventually I had to realize, okay, you need help because you have 3 children, So they were very small at the time. And I needed help. I had to use like a food pantry at the local church and that I was attending. And that was hard for me to accept the help. And because some people would look at me, well, does she really need help, or is she using us, or however, I just buckled down and I was like, I'm not going to always be in this situation. And so when I finally got out of that situation, I used my discernment, and I believe the Holy Spirit guides me and shows me people who I can in return help. And I just make that part of my life. And I was very open with my children about the fact that we needed help. And this is why we help others, because there was a time when we needed it.
Right. To pay it forward. Yeah, absolutely. Aisha, you've been through a lot. I mean, that's a lot to go through. You said you were medically discharged from the military, and then to care for 3 children, your husband stepping out of the family. That is a tough position to be in. May I ask you a question, if you can, without it, bringing back any bad memories or anything? When you were in that position, and people were helping you, what did you notice about the people that were helping you? Did they help you freely? Did they help you with some judgment? Did you feel okay about receiving things? I'm always interested in both sides of what it felt like, what the interaction was like. Can you share a little bit more about that?
Sure. There were some who genuinely really wanted to help. I mean, 100% from their heart. And there were others that I could tell were a bit more reserved, and I respected that. And, once they helped me at that time, because it wasn't like I was going from person to person, hey, can you help me? Can you help me? Because I didn't want to be that burden. I didn't want people to feel obligated. And as a matter of fact, I was never the one who initiated the help. A friend of mine was like, hey, you need help. You need to speak up and say something because there is help out there. And so the ones who I could tell were a bit resistant, I made sure that I would try to make them as comfortable as possible. And I would either write them a note saying thank you, or the next time I was at a thrift store, I would find something for them, no matter how small, just to show my gratitude. Because I never like to have the mindset of just take. Even in the smallest gesture can be a thank you, even if it's just, hey, I got this bread was buy one, get one free at the grocery store. Here's the other one. You can have it for free as a thank you. But yeah, you would see both.
Yeah. Well, the reason why I was asking you is because I was a youth minister for many, many years, Aisha, and we used to take the junior high and the high schoolers over to the community outreach, the food pantry, and the places where people could come and get some assistance with their electric bill or something like that. And we asked people in the community who were receiving services or food or something of that nature, we asked them to come to a religious education class once a year and to tell their story. So like we would ask you, if you were, when you were in that position, we would ask you, Aisha, would you come and tell your story? And when you just shared your story like you did on the radio just a few seconds ago, when you would share it with the teens, it's amazing how their eyes were opened, that, they had such a misconception of those that are, a little bit, down on what's happening in the world and what's going on with their situation, or a little bit, in a position where they can't do certain things. The teens all of a sudden said, wow, this person has a whole story behind what has happened to them in this current situation. And I think that is necessary for our youth to know and to understand at an early age, because it can happen to any one of us. Let's face it. It could happen at any moment, at any time. And I think that's important for them to know at a young age. And it sounds like you impress that on your children, that there's always a story behind why people need something, right?
Yes, very true. And that was another reason that I've always been transparent with them about that, because not only does that give them a tender heart towards others, but it also gives them the want to also serve in our local church.
Right.
Because, it's not just about you. It's not just about, your need at the moment, because there's other needs, and you never know someone's situation when they're coming into the church. And just your friendly hello, just your smile, or can I show you where this department is, or what can I do for you today? Is when you do that, you never know who is on the edge, and that smile can just be like, okay, I'm in trouble right now, I'm in need right now. But I think God is showing me that there is hope, and I'm not going to be here forever.
Right. Well, I can't add anything to what you have said, Aisha, or what Debbie said, but it's beautiful that, when you talk about teaching the young people, because, I think if they learn that at a young age, you see, I think there's this instinctual reaction within us. When we see a need, we just instinctually, I think, want to go and be of help. But it also does help to create opportunities for that and really try and impress upon, especially our kids as they are growing up. I think, in fact, most people are instinctually willing to help, but sometimes we just delay. We just resist that for some reason. But anyway, anything else, Aisha, before we let you go?
I'm sorry.
Did you have oh, okay. Are you there? Okay, well,
I'm here.
Oh, okay. Well, I just wanted to thank you for calling and just really invite you to call anytime, be part of the Take Two family. You made a great contribution to our discussion today. Thank you, Aisha.
Thank you.
God bless.
So I should just freed up a line there if you'd like to call in and share about what attracts us to the less fortunate, what makes us go into action, right? To make that connection. Would you share with us? And if you're working in prison ministry, please call in. I've always found, Jerry, I don't know how you feel about this. I think that is probably one of the best ministries that people can volunteer for. I think it takes a very special person to do it. And I think the spiritual growth is astronomical in prison ministry, because remember, so many times those that go off to prison, they're forgotten. They really are let go of society, and that's unfortunate, because they are part of the mystical body of Christ. So let's talk all about that, and please call in. Don't hesitate any longer. 833-288-3986. This is Take Two with Jerry and Debbie and you. So we need your call. Yes.
Christ is the answer, with Father John Riccardo.
I repeat, I'm sure ad nauseum to the guys who are here, a line from Pope Benedict Emeritus now, who used to say over and over again, to be a Christian is not the result of an ethical choice, but the result of an event, an encounter, a meeting with the living God in the person of Jesus Christ. This and nothing less is what it means to be a Christian. So we said the new evangelization is new in ardor. That's a kind of old-fashioned word. What in the world is ardor? Ardor is zeal, fervor, passion. Are you passionate about Jesus? Passionate about Jesus? Are you zealous for Jesus? Are you fervent for Jesus? Are we fervent for the gospel? Are we passionate about helping this world come to know him?
This is Debbie Georgiani. If you missed part of today's show, catch the encore tonight at midnight Eastern. Check out the podcast anytime at EWTNradio.net and click podcasts.
He is honored by the Church as one of the greatest enemies of clergy sexual abuse.
Matthew Bunson and the Doctors of the Church.
In his time, St. Peter Damian fought against the many vices of contemporary clergy, especially sexual abuses among the clergy. In 1051, he wrote the Book of Gomorrah that is still considered essential reading for fighting abuse today. He died in 1072.
For more about the Doctors of the Church, visit doctorsofthechurch.com.
Hi, this is Cy Kellett. Join us later today on Catholic Answers Live as we do our best to explain and defend the Catholic faith. Catholic Answers Live, 6 p.m. Eastern on EWTN Radio. Now back to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
We are delighted that you are spending part of your day with us. Take Two with Jerry and Debbie and you. We thank the show team, Ace, Jeff, and Matt. Thank you, affiliates, for carrying the program. And we've got a number of calls we're still going to get to here on today's topic. To start off the week, we're talking about why are we just instinctually, I think, drawn to those who are less fortunate, down and out. Maybe we can call them the weak, the vulnerable. Obviously, we think of unborn babies as being, primarily totally at the top of a list like that. But also, the people around us at work, in our families, maybe in church, maybe on the street, maybe in prison. Why is it that we just really have a heart to say, Lord, let me help in some way? How do you do that? What does that look like in your life? 833-288-3986.
I was sharing with Jerry on the break and Ace, our producer, that because I've been a life coach for many years, over 20 years, when I was working at the parish, one of the parishes I was at, we did a community outreach, and we had a lot of volunteer service for the kids and for the junior high and for adults. And one of the things I shared with everybody that was volunteering is that to please ask when you're encountering any person, okay, anyone at the food pantry, or out in the community or on the streets, or the person just comes up and visits, right? Please ask them their story, because once you understand the background, once you understand their story, like Aisha was saying, you can now relate in a much deeper level. It's a soul to soul ministry. As opposed to just handing them a loaf of bread and saying, okay, good luck. I hope you have a nice life. That's very cold. That's very, distant. But when you understand somebody's story, you can now really benefit them by listening and understanding and growing, and also imparting, if they ask you, imparting some maybe advice or some wisdom. And so I believe that soul to soul part, Jerry, is the part that I've always found very intriguing about prison ministry, because people who are in prison ministry say that that's what they walk away with, this soul to soul aspect.
Well, yeah, and I think why that's so important, one reason it's so important, is I think not only do we instinctually want to help people, but I think there's another little instinct at work in us, and that's you view people maybe as being less, I mean, this is a bad thing. I'm not saying it's a good thing, but I think sometimes we look at, these prisoners, look what they've done to end up in here and all of that. Well, you know what? They're people too. They have souls that need that soul to soul ministry. The homeless, we can maybe be tempted to judge them. Well, they're homeless. They probably chose this or whatever. But we don't know. We don't know the circumstances in any situations. Exactly right. Yeah. So I agree with what you're saying completely. Absolutely.
Yeah. And there could be some brain health issues at play and at work, and we need to understand that as well. So if somebody is struggling with a mental illness, we know how to relate to them in that way. If somebody is just down on their luck, we know how to relate to them. But you don't know unless you ask the questions. That's the beauty of life coaching, folks. We ask a lot of questions, and that's how you get to the heart of things. By the way, we do have a wonderful ministry. It's called Stand Tall Today. You can find us at standtalltoday.com. Okay, Jerry, can we go to Ray in Honolulu, Hawaii on EWTN.com? We love Hawaii. Hello, Ray.
Hello, how are you?
Doing
Aloha.
Well. Aloha.
Yeah, so I was talking to Jerry, and I think I told them that I think God created that with that inner calling in all of us to be more compassionate towards one another, especially those who are less fortunate and those who are in jail, because that's what Christ said. But unfortunately, because of our sinfulness, we tend to walk away from that calling. We forget that calling. So as a deacon, part of our training, our formation, was to do prison ministry. I was really attracted to the prison ministry because I have a brother who was incarcerated for a long time, and also nephews. And I remember going to jail visiting him when I was young. It breaks your heart that it has to happen to people like that. Some people not because of their own fault, but things happen, and because of poverty, you tend to do things that you're not supposed to do. I was number 10 of 12 children born in the Philippines, poor. You go to school sometimes hungry, with an empty stomach, barefooted. But sometimes people get pushed to do things that they don't really want to do. And when it comes to homeless people, me and my wife actually befriended a homeless person under the bridge here at Nimitz Road. And this guy he sleeps on the ground there. He doesn't ask for food. He asks for money not because he takes drugs or whatever. He goes to Starbucks across the street, get his coffee, and he doesn't bother anybody. We befriended him for many years, but unfortunately, because of COVID, I don't know what happened. We don't know if he died, but we've been looking for him, and we couldn't find him anymore. We try to teach our children also to be compassionate to those who are less fortunate, the homeless. So on Thanksgiving days or Christmas, we'll pack a bag of lunch, food, fruits, and things like that, and we go around looking for homeless and give them food. And that's our way of teaching our children that this is the least we can do for all the good things that God has given us. because, coming to the U.S. really changed not only my life, but the life of my family in the Philippines. And I'm able to provide a better life for my children here in Hawaii. So that's what really motivates me and drives me, not because I've been there, I know what it's like, but God created it to be that way.
Yeah. That last statement that you made, Ray, I think sums it all up. You had mentioned earlier in your comments that you believe we have an inner calling. There's an inner calling in all of us to be more compassionate. And it's funny you mentioned that you lost track of that homeless gentleman that you were helping, because I've had the same experience as I was mentioning early in the show. And when I lived in San Diego, I had a young man named Eric who had a leg or maybe both of his legs amputated. He was really almost always in the same spot, probably because of that. But then he got a motorized wheelchair, thanks be to God, and so he was probably scooting around somewhere, and I missed him. I used to go down there and just talk to him and take some food and stuff. So God bless you, Ray, for doing that. And the prison ministry, so important. Debbie knows. I've mentioned on this show, I have a very good friend who was falsely accused of sexually abusing his adopted son and had to do 7.5 years in prison. And through my correspondence with him, I got to know his cellmate. I got to know some of the other inmates. And you just see their hearts. They have hearts after God. Maybe they're there because, they made a mistake or something. But we need to remember, as Debbie was saying, it's soul-to-soul ministry. And those are souls that Jesus died for and are going to spend eternity somewhere. And thank you, Ray, for doing what you're doing, especially in the prison ministry.
Oh, I totally agree. Deacon Ray, thank you so much for your vocation. Thank you for sharing the ministry work you continue to do. And I just want to say, Jerry, wasn't it your mother that used to always say there, but for the grace of God go I, wasn't your mom used to say that all the time?
A lot, yeah.
Yeah, and it's so true, Deacon. We are so fortunate in the position we're in right now, right? But at any moment, things could change. It could be flipped, and we could be the one in need. Or a mistake happens, or something, an accident, or something, and it changes life forever. But it doesn't change our journey. Our journey is still to get united with God, and we're in it together. And like what you were talking about, Deacon, the corporal works of mercy and also the spiritual works of mercy. Why do we run away from that? Why are we hesitant? Is it because we think too much is going to be demanded of us? Well, no. I believe we have to go 100% into the works of mercy, because that is what's going to benefit the full body of Christ. What do you think, Deacon?
Absolutely. I think some people walk away from it sometimes because it's too much of a commitment. It's an inconvenience. But I was talking to a friend, actually. I do Holy Hour every Wednesday at Our Lady of Perpetual Help Parish. And sometimes people are saying that 1 hour is too long. And then we're like, really? Look at Christ. He hung in there for 3 hours, 4 hours in. And you think 1 hour of Holy Hour is too long. It's too much of a commitment sometimes. We're too afraid, or it's a hassle, or it kind of alter our lives. But we cannot do that, because we have to be all in, just like Jesus said. It's either you're in or you're out. It's not a halfway commitment, halfway there. That's not what we are being called to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely, Deacon Ray. I mentioned earlier in the broadcast there are two blind ladies in my parish, and they both have people who transport them to church and so forth. And I've actually asked myself, would I be willing to do that? And in all complete honesty, I don't know that I could, be all in on that. I would love to be. I would love to think that I would if I was asked to do that. But I was kind of examining it from that perspective. So you're right. And, I just encourage anybody to get involved. A lot of people, they get involved in helping others when they're retired, once they're retired. But we had a call earlier today talking about getting our kids into these things. And really, I think, if we just make that little bit of a sacrifice, we're going to get so much more out of it. Who hasn't said that? I get way more out of it than I give into it. So, Deacon, thank you for your call. Thanks for listening to the show.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so excited because our bishop is trying to bring this radio station to Hawaii, and he cannot wait.
Oh, that's wonderful, Deacon. Well, make sure you remember us. We love Hawaii.
I definitely will. If you guys make your way here, I'm located at Our Lady of Perpetual Help. I sure would like to meet you guys in person.
Absolutely. Well, we know the folks who are trying to get that station going up there, Deacon Ray. So maybe we will be seeing each other. I'm going to volunteer to go and help set up the station in Hawaii.
That would be, yeah, you're volunteering? There
volunteering
you go.
for that, yeah.
Why isn't Jerry coming back? It's been like 5 months. He's not coming back. Mm-hmm. No, Jerry, one thing I just want to say about, because I was a volunteer coordinator of, in placing people in ministry. Not everyone is gifted to do prison ministry. Not everyone is equipped to do, working at the food pantries or going out into the communities. But you can do other things, and that's, everybody works together. It's a group effort. So you may be the person processing the forms or filling out stuff, back at the parish, or helping to just get the stuff boxed up, right? You may, so I don't want people to feel, guilty, like, oh, I just don't have. And the reason why I say this, Jerry, is because when I was a volunteer coordinator, there were a lot of people that came to me and said, I really want to help people, but I'm a germaphobe. I have to wash my hands like 30 times a day. And so they may not be, good in that area, but there's other things we can do to help the effort. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I hope this conversation today is inspiring that in all of you who are listening. Okay, it's our conversation about why we are drawn to the less fortunate, the weak, the vulnerable, those in need. And we're going to talk next with Tamara, who is in Fayetteville, Georgia, listening on The Quest. Hi, Tamara.
Hey, and happy 7th year going. God bless y'all. God bless y'all.
Thank you.
And I haven't been able to call in a couple of months because I'm healing up. I've got hurt for a tendon in my left ankle, and then I have 2 other strains. So y'all please keep me in prayer. And then to put some funniness in this, as far as helping other people, I have always tried to help other people, and my mother used to say, Tammy, get out of the gutter. And I would just look at her. She's like, get out of the gutter. I'm like, well, maybe I like it in the gutter, or it's not that bad in the gutter. But people need sometimes to be pulled out from bad situations where they've been just in a terrible state. And I was able, I'm 60 now, but even in my 40s, I was able to rescue people out of Atlanta that were in a terrible situation where they had been homeless for who knows how long, filthy from head to toe, and both ladies and men, and needing a place to just get clean, have some peacefulness, have some well-balanced meals, and a quiet place to be able to sleep. And that much worked for several. One was able to get connected with a Christian family, and she called me, and she was doing a whole lot better. And she was too scared to spend the night at the house, and I told her it's okay. I had enough gas. I could take her right back to the church parking lot. She was staying at the Presbyterian Church in Atlanta. And I went, and there were tons of young people there in their youth department that were out with all of the homeless people, spending the night on the summer time, and so it was safe, and I wasn't worried about leaving her. But there was one guy at Grodi Hospital that was covered with poop from the top of his head to the sole of his feet, and the nurses gave me a clipboard and said, go over there, we need you to take his patient history. I said, well, I've done that before, so I'll be glad to help. The odor would knock you down. And he was a kind-hearted man, and he's like, I have heart trouble. I'm like, sir, you've got more than heart trouble. And I'm like, let me find a room where you can get those clothes off of you immediately before you kill everybody in the emergency room. The odor was just out there. And he got tickled at me. And before I got through taking his patient history, I got him in a sheet that was clean and all those clothes in the garbage can, and got him some water where he could just, think, and made him stay in that bathroom and wash his face and arms off, and as much as he could wash off, and leave all those linens, anyway, where the cleanup crew could get them later. And the ladies couldn't believe that he obeyed me. I'm like, he would kill everybody. And there was an older black man listening to me as I was taking his patient history, and he got so tickled. He said everything I told him was so sensible, and that he couldn't believe I stuck with it. And I'm like, sometimes people have been through a lot. And it was a scalding hot summer day, and he was on a work crew, and he probably got heat stroke or sunstroke, And if you're out in the elements and you don't stay hydrated enough, it can do a lot to your system. So, and before I was there with my goddaughter, and before we got her seen, he was coming over, and my goddaughter Mildred said, "Here he comes, Tammy." I'm like, "Oh, please don't tell me he's going to try to get a date." But he was flirting, and the same older black man was right there when the man came up to flirt. And I'm like, "Sir, this is really not the time or place for you to flirt." And I'm like, "I'm glad you're feeling better, but you still need to be checked out at the hospital. And no, I'm not interested in a boyfriend, but thank you very much, and I wish you well, and I'll be praying for you to keep doing better." And the older man, he laughed so loud. He was waiting on his wife to get out because she had some heart trouble, and he said, "I was the funniest thing." And my goddaughter back to her side, she's like, "You don't want to date him? Tammy, you don't want to date him?" I'm like, "No, I do not. I just want him to get well and be healthy."
Wow. Yeah. That's a humorous little twist on that, Tamara. Thanks for sharing that. And you're proof again that our help can take various different forms. What you did for that individual is not something just anybody would have done because, like you said, the mess and the smell and all of that. And my mind went immediately to St. Teresa of Calcutta as you were talking. Tamara, you probably are very familiar with her and the ministry that she and her sisters had and still have. It's really it's so objective, and what I mean by that is it doesn't matter what the circumstances are, how somebody looks, how somebody feels, how somebody smells. It's seeing a need right there and seeing Christ in that person, which we're supposed to do. So, way to go, Tamara! I think you've done some great things.
Oh, absolutely. Tamara, thank you so much for sharing your ministry story. And as you were speaking, I was putting you in our prayer book to make sure we pray for full recovery. So will you keep us posted?
Yes, I certainly will, Debbie. God bless y'all. God bless y'all. Yes. And we have to believe God for those healings. And He knows who's working for Him and who's trying to do their best. And I couldn't imagine Him letting me not be able to keep helping because it's something that is it's a calling, and it makes you feel good when you see others doing better.
And it is a calling. That's a beautiful way to describe it. It's a calling, and it's also a privilege, because when we are brought into these encounters, I think there's room for tremendous spiritual growth. There's Holy Spirit moments that take place, as you know, everybody has shared during this wonderful broadcast, that it enables us to really understand, I believe, an element of God better. So Tamara, you're awesome. We love you, and thank you so much for calling in today.
Praise God, right at y'all. Y'all make life worth living.
Oh, goodness. Thank you so much. So do you. For us, Take Two Family is really, really important to us. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
May I please share about, we're talking about people's stories and their journeys, and that's important. The Journey Home with Marcus Grodi, very, very popular show, and we encourage you to tune in Sunday night 5 Eastern time on EWTN radio, Monday night 8 Eastern time on EWTN television and radio. Marcus Grodi and his guests discuss their personal journeys home back to the Catholic Church. Exactly what we're talking about. Everybody's got a story, folks. And this week the guest is Larry Chapp, and he talks about being a Catholic revert as a former evangelical Protestant. So please tune in for the Journey Home. It's a wonderful show. You're learning something. You know, when this Christian witness, this understanding of going through and learning from somebody else's journey, it's very important, because we're not getting good information these days, and so we have to learn from each other and learn from programs that we trust. And the Journey Home is one of those. It's a go-to for me.
How many people have been helped by Marcus Grodi over the years in his ministry?
I agree. Mm-hmm.
A little bit of social media before we go back to the phones. Watching on Facebook is Mary Beth. Mary Beth says, "The hungry and lonely are two segments of society that tug at my heart. We should never have anyone in America experience either. I called a nursing home and asked who needs a visitor, and then started visiting once a week with a journal to write down my new friend's memoirs. Such a blessing to know her and better understand life 100 years ago. Yes, she's 101 with no family in the state." So that's what Mary Beth is doing. Bless her heart.
That is amazing, Mary Beth. That is beautiful. And, I just want to say, too, if you have a loved one, a parent, a grandparent in a nursing home or assisted living, please, when you visit your parents, your grandparents, also take the time to visit one other person in the community and in the building, because the stories, wow, you would never believe it, Jerry. My mom was having dinner every single night with this wonderful group of friends at the assisted living place, 10 years ago. And the guy that was always sitting there was super quiet, and he was missing one leg. One leg was gone, and he was in a wheelchair. He was a top surgeon for many, many years. We never knew that until we finally said, "Do you want to tell us about your journey?" And he told us a story, and you wouldn't believe how many lives he saved in the operating room.
Yeah, it's amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Well, we'll go back to some calls here, as many as we can get on today's program. Mary Jane is in Sioux City, Iowa, listening on Siouxland Catholic Radio. Hi, Mary Jane. Thanks for being part of the program.
Well, thank you for taking my call.
Mm-hmm. Go right ahead.
Well, I just kind of wanted to give an example that I'm 70. I'll be 75 years old, and I have a heart condition. I live by myself. I have a condo, and occasionally I have repairs that have to be done to the house. I have no children that live here, and so I called the Knights of Columbus, thinking that maybe they could have someone that wanted to do a service project to help me with these 3 items. And so the individual said that he would bring it to the Knights and get back with me. And so 2 weeks went by. I never heard anything. So I recalled him, and he said, I put it out on the internet, but no one responded. But I'll put it out again. And so it took about 2 weeks, and I never heard anything. And so then I talked to someone else that was a knight, but wasn't in a big position. And anyway, they notified the head knight. I said the only thing that bothers me is they could not call me back and tell me they didn't have anybody. And so anyway, this head knight did call me back and said they didn't have anybody. And the only thing that bothered me was that they could have called me much sooner, and I kept calling. It was like I was a child with faith that was unbreakable, and I still have that faith. I was listening to some of the Knights of Columbus convention, and I saw those professional men with their white jackets on, and I thought, and they couldn't even help me with a few simple projects.
Mary Jane, I'm going to have to cut in. I apologize for that, but we're going to hear the closing music on the show. Miriam in Pennsylvania, we're not going to be able to get to you today. Feel free to email take2@EWTN.com. But Mary Jane, as a 4th degree knight, Debbie's husband is a 4th degree knight. I can tell you this: my council would have sent a bunch of guys over there, and that's, I think, indicative and typical of every Knights of Columbus council. The Knights are great. Maybe not everybody can do the things that you needed to have done, but at least a phone call back. You're right. And so, apologies for that, but don't sour on the Knights, because it is a great fraternal organization. Debbie?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, and we're sorry you had to go through that. It does hurt, though. We want that kind of dignity and respect, and people should get back to each other, because we are all in this together with the mystical body of Christ. Tomorrow is, we're asking the question, have you rescued a pet, and why? So we're going to kind of continue this line of thinking with our pets now, and that's for tomorrow's show, Jerry.
Looking forward to it. Thanks again to the show team and the affiliates. Hope that you, the Take Two family, have a beautiful and blessed day. St. Joseph, pray for us.
Cresta in the Afternoon presents the truth of the Catholic faith. In the light of that faith, we analyze our culture's ideas, trends,